understand you are on your way to Iron Mountain Observatory to find out why and went silent after receiving a signal from a missing probe. This celestial mystery must be evaluated from every perspective.
Now I lay me down to sleep.
There appear to be pages from a Bible covering the walls.
Pray the Lord my soul to keep.
I'm not gonna hurt you.
If I should die before I wake,
Get out of my head! Did you hear that?
pray the Lord my soul Amen.
Book of Revelations talks about the end of times. Do you think that's what's happening now?
Amen.
It's starting.
What is it you want?
To fulfill prophecy.
What prophecy?
On earth.
The signal coming through the headphones. Everybody is in danger.
Join us.
Do you hear it, Gabriel? All roads have led to this moment. Let the signal transmit.
Amen.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. How are you doing?
Yeah, wonderful. I'm here in the Detroit, Michigan area, and we've got a nice fall day. It's actually warm, but temperatures are about to drop tomorrow, and we'll probably be thrust into winter. So early winter.
Enjoy it while it lasts, as you say. It's right around the corner.
Yeah, right. Yeah. How about you?
Similar, actually. It's been raining pretty much non-stop for a week straight. There's been a storm over the north of England. It's caused a bit of trouble. But today, similar to you, it's mild. It's autumny. That's it.
Wow.
It's all right.
Yeah, we were fortunate. My first visit to the UK, I went to London for Fright Fest, and we just love the city and the theater district. And I brought my wife and my daughter, and yeah, we had a fabulous time. So it was wonderful.
Oh, did you spend a few days there? Did you get a lot of time to do things?
Yeah, we had, we did the touristy things. We did a couple bus tours. You got to kind of do that. And but we did. My young daughter is really into theater, so we would frequent. We got some tickets to the Prince Charles, or not the now it's the no, it's King Charles, right?
Oh yeah, but you talking about the
theater?
Cinema?
No, it was actually, we saw the Phantom of all things at the now it's His Majesty's Theater, I believe it's called, and just a gorgeous old theater. So yeah, so we snuck in some theater while we were there doing movie stuff.
You spoke for choice. It is London. It is my city. It's where I live. It's where I spend my time. So I know it. Leicester Square, Tottenham Court Road. You've got so much West End stuff to experience there. But ultimately being there as well, specifically for Fright Fest, is an experience in itself. Thorns, the movie, it got its worldwide premiere there. Talk to me about that experience.
Yeah, wonderful. We actually held out. There were a few other festivals that wanted us to premiere, but Fright Fest has been on my sort of bucket list of festivals for a while, and we held out, and when we got the invitation, we were just over the moon. And the screening was exceptional. We had a full house, and we got some wonderful reviews from it, and couldn't have asked for more, really.
What was the overall reaction like in the room come, credits? We've reached the end. And did you kind of get much in the way of feedback directly from people?
Yeah, it wasn't until, there was the obligatory applause, and it was a nice crowd to the point where, when there were moments, specifically because it's a horror film and a horror crowd, when there were particularly gruesome moments, the audience didn't hold back, and they were cheering gleefully. And then, of course, a few applaud moments, and just very supportive, I think overall. And, it is a, it's not a large budgeted film. It's a lower budgeted horror film. And we feel it played well for that. And but well received. And a few of the more popular horror trades like Dread Central really loved the film, and gave it 4 stars and all that. So that was great.
It's good to hear that feedback. I've seen it now. I watched it myself yesterday in preparation to talk to you about this.
Yeah.
It is an exceptional experience, that mind-bending experience is how I like to think of it. You're combining things like biblical themes, metaphysical tones, and of course, strong physical horror. But I guess I want you to take me back to the early stages of your vision for this. What did it look like?
Well, the film was sort of several decades in the making, just in that I myself am a lover of the genre, and my favorite era was the, that sweet spot in the late 70s and in the mid 80s, where physical effects reigned supreme and monsters, were a big part of cinema. And so it was films like, Ridley Scott's Alien, of course, Clive Barker's Hellraiser, and then John Carpenter's The Thing, that just really stuck with me over the years. And so as I evolved as a filmmaker, I always said to myself, I'd love to make an homage to that era, something very physical, makeup effects driven, and just really celebrating a monster. So, I approached the story from that singular perspective as an homage piece, but making it somewhat modern, if you will, if that makes sense.
Oh, it absolutely does. So you have that base vision. How does that evolve as the years goes by, as time goes by, and you're working on this overarching story and vision? How does that adapt? How does that evolve?
Well, so there's that whole part, and then there's just, where do ideas come from, right? And all that. I myself with all the films I've made, I tend to be the screenwriter. With this film, if you look to it, there are religious overtones and overtones of science and the cosmos. And, I'm fascinated by those subjects. And, I sort of have felt we're living in a very interesting time. And, I know that can sound cliche, because I'm sure every decade, there's talk of doom and gloom and apocalyptic, thoughts and things of that nature. But, I guess, I was holding up a little bit of a mirror towards society, and looking at the world around me, when the idea sort of struck, the epiphany for, just the basis of where where would hell be in the
Mm.
in the world and in, you know, or in the cosmos and whatnot, and it sort of took life from there, you know, and if there is such a place, right? And you know, so
Talk to me then about assembling this cast, because it's a strong cast. You have the likes of Jon Bennett, Cassandra Schomer, Bo Shumaker, and of course Doug Bradley, to name just a few. Was the casting process quite easy?
You know, sure. You know, Doug Bradley has a storied career, you know, with the Hellraiser franchise, and I knew Doug's manager. So I was having a casual conversation with Doug's manager, and I said, "Yeah, I'm trying to cast this role of an archbishop who, you know, who starts out, you know, is sort of an ally of the protagonist, but as the story progresses, you know, we learn, you know, more and so forth." And he immediately tossed out Doug Bradley. And you know, I'll admit, at first I was a bit apprehensive because it was a monster film, and because our designs were you know, there was inspiration for sure, you know, with the Hellraiser
Of
films.
course.
So I was wondering, okay, well, how far do you go with this, right? And then I figured what I'd do is I'd send the script to Doug, and I'd let him be the final judge of it, and he just loved the story and the character, and so that made me feel good. And he has since, you know, he's seen the film and he's participated in a lot of the promotional media for it, and so I got his stamp of approval, and that meant a lot to me. So yeah, that was great.
It is great. It is great because you know, there is I don't say a habit or a trend sometimes of a big name horror actor from say the 80s and the 90s, someone was coming into a film and having a 2-minute role there, kind of phoning it in, and not really anything beyond that. So it was really great to see him be so prominent in this film.
Yeah, we you know, it had to be carefully, you know, designed. Again, as independent filmmakers, you know, it's always a battle and a struggle for coordinating when you're on set. And you know, they say that every film starts out, you know, as an Academy Award, you know, contender. It's just what happens once you start filming, right? You know, all the elements and you're up against. And but Doug was great to work with, a phenomenal actor. You know, came to set prepared and made it just a wonderful experience for us.
I'm really glad to hear that. And I also want to highlight someone specifically, mainly because of how their performance is in the movie. And it's Cassandra, because of course in the movie, mute, which means all acting has to come from expressions and body language and so on. And she is incredible. Was that character always going to be mute, or was there something that kind of changed that?
Oh, as far as the mute ness of the nun, no, that was always there. It was intentional. She's a metaphor. You know, I don't like to, I like to allow audiences to make of a movie what they will, but I can tell you as a writer, she was representative to me of the a bit of the Catholic Church, and you know, her silence in a time speaks to you know, what I feel, you know, where things may have gone wrong with many organized religions, right? So that's what her character really represents. And you know, in addition to actually being a female voice in the church. So, and I talked to Cassandra a lot about that. You know, we had dialogues, and you know, she wanted to know where this was all coming from, and she did just a brilliant job. And you know, walking through the entire film, right, you know, without the ability to actually have dialogue, but yet she's on screen for you know, most of the film.
What about working off Jon Bennett in that regard? Because they have so many scenes together, as you said, so many times where he has to, you know, he has to talk to her, but he can't get an answer. It's complex to watch, but it's fascinating as well.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I'm glad you see it that way. And what's interesting is I almost think that each actor carries the film in their own right, because here you have Jon. We open the film with Jon, and we follow Gabe Goodman, all the way, to the remote observatory and beyond, right? And we're almost never not with him. So we needed someone that we felt the audience would feel captivated by and enthused by. So he had to be extremely authentic. And then, of course, he's playing off someone who can't talk back to him. So that made it even, more challenging. So on one end, this film rises based on Jon's performance, but then Cassandra takes the film on her shoulders with the entire religious angle.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got the monster, right? Bo Shumaker, who wonderfully portrays Dr. Malik, who transforms into the monster. And that's, a whole other story there, because, Bo is in some complicated and challenging makeup for the film, for sure.
It looked like it. It looks like it on the screen, like it was a lot of effort gone into creating to the challenge of getting him and all of that. So I have to ask you, when you look at the challenging aspects of creating a film overall, is the effects, the makeup potentially it?
Yeah, of course. There are all the normal inherent challenges with just making an independent feature. Not getting booted out of locations, and trying to find your funding, and keeping your crew together in a post-COVID era, and all of those things. But with this film in particular, it was the attention to detail for the makeup effects. Those aren't pullover masks. Bo is put in an extensive full facial prosthetic appliances. And so it's it's like a 6-piece mask that's literally glued, to the actor's face, and there are no eyelets, at least for like 90% of the filming. So Bo was unable to see. So the minute he sat down in the makeup chair, his sight was taken away. And, the mouth area was even sealed up. And of course, we were feeding him lunch, smoothies through a straw. But we had two PAs walk him to set because he couldn't find his own way. And he likened the experience to being a scuba diver, in that he felt, extreme claustrophobia and trapped, and he found himself being hit with like some panic moments, where he just wanted to literally rip himself out of the makeup.
Wow.
Yeah, it was that challenging for him. And then, of course, it was getting really hot under the lights. So we had to move swiftly and quickly, and again, you can start with that Academy Award plan, but the minute you get on set and someone throws this curveball at you saying, we need to hurry up because this actor's only got another 40 minutes in this makeup, and you know what I mean? So, those are some of the challenges, we were up against. So.
Incredible. But then flip that around, because as you say, there are loads and loads of challenges, but there are also going to be tons of areas that you enjoy, that you find creatively satisfying or just fun. What were some of them?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think for me, the why I stick with it, I never got in this to to have the mansion on the hill and so forth. I'm just I love movie making, and it's my day job as well. I run a film institute here in Michigan. I've been doing that for 3 decades now. And when I'm not doing that, I'm making films, independent films in the Detroit area. So, I love pre-production. I love conceptualizing and building shot lists and visualizing how I will translate the script to screen. That's always a real fun, because you can do it in private and it's sort of a, just a fun little hobby. But then, for me, it's bringing all the crew and cast together, and the harmonious, hopefully, family type atmosphere that's created on a film set. It's an intense, short period of time, so people become fast friends, and usually strong bonds are built. And what's exciting about it is whenever you make a movie, you're almost living a different life, if you will, because each film takes you into a different world and a different experience. And then at the end of the shoot, you kind of walk away from it, So, and then of course, taking the film to festivals, when it's positively received, it's, it's hard to top. That's a real wonderful experience for us. So.
And it's well deserved, as you say, because it's a combination of a great story, great acting, great visuals. Even as you said yourself, low budget or not,
Thank you.
Done wonders here. Thanks
so much. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And we can't do any of this without the support, right, from the independent film community and the horror community, has been wonderful. Individuals like yourself just giving us support, because what's really lacking is most independent filmmakers put all their resource into their movies, and then they're, unlike the studio that has just an endless resource to promote their movies, we have to get out and go festival to festival and hope we can build a word of mouth for it, so.
Absolutely. And it works to some degree. You do the best you can. You said yourself, you haven't got the backing of, I don't know, The Exorcist, Believer, and what that's got money behind it and things like that. So you do what you can do. Going back to the film, I wanted to ask, were you conscious of how you would be portraying religion here in regards to your own beliefs, whatever they might be?
Yeah, very interesting comment, or question. To a degree, it does reflect some of my frustrations and questions, and my inability over the decades to find, perhaps what I was hoping to find, right? And so hence we have this character Gabe who begins his journey. You find out that he has a past in the church, but he left it failing to find the answers. And now he's searching, he's looking to the heavens, he's looking to the cosmos, right? For answers. And so I think that there's a bit of autobiography there, I would admit. And then there's this whole, without giving things away, where is hell and what is hell? And when you look at, just what's so fascinating about life, without turning this into a theological discussion, is, on Monday, life can be amazing and beautiful and whatnot. And Tuesday morning, you wake up and there's a mass shooting somewhere, and your neighbors are freaking out, and a friend of yours has cancer, and so that's where some of the dialogue that Doug Bradley so eloquently gives voice to, and saying, we're born into a world where our existence is very limited, and it's full of pain. There's an awful lot of pain. So again, I'll stop there with that. But that's what the film was attempting to really, kind of, again, hold a mirror to, maybe. So.
I asked it because I always find any subject, any film that will base itself not just in religion, but focus on an aspect like hell, as we've said, and make it open-minded, have an open-minded view on it to a degree, way more fascinating than, say, a straightforward, this is what it is and this is what we're telling you it is.
That's true. Yeah. There's a place for everything, I think, in cinema, and whether you want to see The Nun, or, other films with religious overtones and whatnot. But for me, it's a natural go-to. And what's interesting about religion, and in specifically, let's say the New Testament and in Bibles and so forth, is it's whether you really believe all of the written words, it's certainly ripe for dramatic cinema, with especially with that book of Revelations, there's a whole lot of content there, right, to draw from. So
yeah, so I was going to jump in and say, yeah, because even if you're not necessarily saying it with words, even just the imagery, and I use an image from Thorns, which of course is the hallway with the passages pinned up on it, stuck up on the wall. I mean, the image alone is terrifying.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that, the hallway was a central point for the story for, a number of reasons, and in the pages in the Bible, there's a whole lot of meaning there, but we continually revisit it. And it's an intentionally claustrophobic film, designed to be set in just this one location. And there are these transitions you may, in second, if you see it more than once, you may see how we travel through a cosmos that becomes more of a cerebral landscape. And then at the very end, you put it all together and we're coming out of Gabe's eye and we do this kind of spin. And so, the observatory really represents Gabe's soul, in essence. And that's why we stay there, because, we're struggling, we're trapped. And, the nun is really, on one end trying to pull Gabe out of the depths, and Malik's character is pulling him the other way. So yeah, so that was the intention anyway.
I think it comes across, and you mentioned it before, of course, that ignoring just having Doug Bradley as part of the team, that there was some inspiration for Hellraiser. But I think it's fair most people will watch and potentially draw also comparisons to the likes of Event Horizon. Is that fair? Did you draw inspiration from that?
That, thanks for asking that question, because it wasn't, in doing other films, even, I've had people occasionally, I remember I did a film years ago when I was a very young filmmaker, and it had a spiritual bent to it. It was called Dark Heaven. And it was a Blockbuster exclusive when Blockbusters were around. But someone pointed out a Tarkovsky film, and which I had never seen, this Russian filmmaker, and they found it impossible that I, number one, had not heard of the film, and that I wasn't massively influenced by it to make, my film. And I'm like, I'm being very honest with you. I've never seen the film. So that said, I never watched, or I have seen Event Horizon, but did it stay with me? I'm sure all the films I've watched, at some point are just kind of like floating around my psyche. And so, I'm sure there has to be some subconscious inspiration there, but in no means when I sat down and started creating, did I have any one story as a guide or a focal point, other than the homage to the era of monster movies in general. So, here I thought I was being actually a little, with the whole, this, it started out as the whole, where is the ninth planet, right? What is the ninth planet? And that's been getting a lot more publicity in scientific journals, as we're trying to find, we seem to think there's a planet out there we just can't see. And I thought, well, what if the whole idea was, well, what if it is hell? That's where it is. And so I started with there, and Event Horizon, I believe, is a little different, but certainly is a brilliant film. Wow.
Yeah, it's often, I was doing some reading up on several different reviews yesterday as well, and I kept kind of coming across that, and then after seeing it myself, well, I think the only kind of thing that seems to be linking is hell, and then it's like, well, if we're going to do that, we can do everything. Let's throw Doom in there, a video game as well,
Yeah, for sure. So you're traveling down a rabbit hole, right? When you're going to approach that subject matter, I suppose. So be forewarned, right?
Absolutely. Do you have a particular favorite scene or sequence from the movie?
I really like the opening in the when we first come upon Dr. Malik, and it's a short little bit where he's been left alone, and the signal has physicalized itself, and there's something in him that he's trying to get out. I just like it because it's a nice setup. That's to me, that works wonderfully. But there are some really wonderful moments throughout. I do like when the monster metamorphoses, Dr. Malik metamorphoses, right? He transforms, and the thing from within comes out. I like that as well. And I rather like the ending too. And anytime Doug Bradley's on screen, I'm engaged and so forth. So yeah.
Plenty to choose from. I'm glad you mentioned the transformation, because of course that, amongst many other moments, are some of the more goriest sequences and scenes from the entire movie. There are some shocking images in the film. Did you just push your own limits here in regards to that side of things?
What's interesting is, this film was shot. I've noticed a bit of a resurgence as of late. With the hit of the film Terrifier. Too, right? In gore is kind of making a comeback. And what's interesting is, well, this film was actually conceived and shot before that resurgence. And so what audiences might refer to as gore and visceral gooiness, to me was honoring the 80s. And I distinctly recall, going to a shopping mall where they had a multiplex to see Dawn of the Dead, when I was a kid. And so I came out of the movie and I was in a mall, but that movie in and of itself was extremely graphic, and the physical effects, and as was The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, and even Hellraiser, to this day still is almost on its own level. And so I was trying to, kind of mirror that era. So I felt we kind of had to deliver, right?
Oh, well, you absolutely did. I use the term shock, and I've seen a ton of horror. I don't get shocked. Anything to do with eyes, you start doing stuff with eyes, and there's plenty of that here.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, the eyes have it. There are those sensitive areas where everyone can, the eyes, and of course there's fingernails, right, and teeth, and so forth. So there's that list of how to make audiences squirm,
Okay, Doug, we're running out of time here, so I just want to wrap this up with basically people who want to support the film, people who want to get the word out about it. What can they do?
we're going to screen. We have a screening in New York at a wonderfully prestigious New York horror film festival in December. After that, we've, I can say right now, we've just done a deal. We're going theatrical with the film. So here in the US, it's going to be a 2-phase release where we're going to start with a few theaters, and then we're going to expand, and that all starts in February. So that's stateside. And then, of course, we've done a whole lot of good media in London with the result of the festival. So we're hoping to find a good distribution deal. Fingers crossed in London. So we'll see in the UK in general. So we'll see how that goes. For sure.
Fantastic to hear that you're going to be doing theatres from February in 2024. That's incredible. And I guess for everyone else, just talk about it, shout about it, and just enjoy it when you get the opportunity to see it. Doug, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Carl.
Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at GBHBL. Just search for GBHBL and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.